My name is James Bass, B-A-S-S. I was a tech sergeant in the Army Air Corps. Life before World War II was quite different from what life was after World War II. The period of the 1930s was during the period of the Depression. We did not have a lot back then. We had everything we needed. We looked upon it as life as it was, and we were comfortable, and things were a lot different from what they are now. I began to realize more along in 1940, along after the invasion of the Germans or the Nazis onto Poland. There were a lot of talks about the war. We were going along pretty much as we had been, and no one expected the attack that came on December the 7th, 1941. I got into the war in 1943 and came out in 45. I was volunteered, but being a volunteer back in those days is not a great deal because I was on the draft list, but I wanted the Air Corps, and I volunteered to try to get into the Air Corps. Basic training was a 6 weeks course, about 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks, in which you learned all the basics of military appearance. I happened to have had as my drill sergeant a sergeant who came out of the National Guard. He was probably in his mid-30s and had been in the military for several years and was a drill sergeant. He did not like the Air Corps, and he took his spite out on us as the recruits. I was on a B-17 crew. I was a radio operator mechanic gunner on the B-17, which was either the largest or next largest bomber that we used in the European theater. When I was flying, we had anywhere from 12 to 1,500 heavy bombers we could turn out into one mission and bomb, and we were flying pretty deep at those crews, those emplacements. So it was our duty to disrupt the communications and transportation and to get the industrial complex and bomb it. In the time that I was flying, we had both fighter and ground emplacements, and they had a jillion guns, and they had the 88 machine gun that could hit us. So we got what you would call flak, which is the remnants of these bomb shells. We got that almost every mission, and we got fighter almost every mission. To say it, you were scared would probably not be accurate, but you respected the opposition. They were trained, and they were well trained, and you had to be ready. You had to be prepared to face what they were going to bring up against you. Well, WWII was in the 29th Division, which was one of the 6 divisions that were involved in the D-Day, on D-Day, going in on Normandy. We had several here who were in the 2nd Division, who went in the next day and fought. In the 8th Air Force, which I was in, I was part of the 8th. It was about a half a dozen of us. James Cecil Wagner, who incidentally won the Silver Star for bringing the plane back one time. Clyde White was in the 8th. WWII won the Silver Star. He was surrounded, him and I think 3 others were surrounded by the Germans, by the Nazis, and they fought themselves out of the hole that they were dug into. In combat, you don't think much about what you're going to be doing next year. You thought more about, am I going to make it through the next mission? But every once in a while you'd have your mind, oh, I'm going to get back home. You know, you don't get despondent or you don't get blue. You keep a good mood that, boy, I'm going to survive this after every mission. I knew the war was over with. Really, the last mission we flew was in May the 20th. And you could tell by the big map on the wall. The map on the wall showed where our front line was on western Germany and where the Russians were on the eastern Germany. So we could tell then that the space between was narrowing. You know, we felt good. At that time, it was a known fact that the war in the Pacific was still going on, and that we would probably be called to go to the Pacific. But it was a good feeling to know that this part of the war was over. We were sent back home within 45 days, 60 days. I came back on a ship, and I came back about a month after the war officially ended in Europe. I took my 30-day furlough and went to San Antonio, Texas for a reassignment. There I got my reassignment, which was a refresher course in radio, which would be given at Scott Field, Illinois. So while I'm doing that, the war in the atomic bombs were dropped and the war in the Pacific ended. So when the war is over, I knew that I was going to get out. There was no future in the military for me and 16 million others. So I wanted to get out and get back to school. And I decided pretty soon that I was going to finish my academic degree, go on to law school, and practice law. And that's what I did. I might say this. I had 62 years with Irma. We did not become a twosome until after the war. And we did not marry as soon as a lot of people who went to war did. I had to go back to school. I had to get an education. I wanted an education. My parents wanted me to have an education. So it took us a long time to get through school before I could talk about the future. But it's been a good life, and I've enjoyed it.